Have you ever thought about why they would call Friday Good Friday? I would actually even say there was probably not a whole lot of good about this Friday, at least from Jesus' perspective of all the physical pain and emotional pain that he went through. So as we delve into this today, I want to give you the prophet's thought in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 5. It says, "But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities, and the punishment that brought us peace was on him. And by his wounds you are healed." Wow, that was a prophecy given that points to this day that we're going to look at, Good Friday. And again, think about this. What makes it good? Well, I want to kind of do this in a fun way. Don't hold me to it, but these are just some possible timelines of what really happened on that Friday. So we're going to start off at midnight. John chapter 18, verses 2 through 6. It says, "Now Judas, who betrayed him, knew the place because Jesus had often met there with his disciples. So Judas came to the garden, guiding a detachment of soldiers and some officials from chief priests and Pharisees. They were carrying torches, lanterns, and weapons. Jesus, knowing all that was going to happen to him," isn't that Jesus always knows, "went out and asked them, 'Who is it that you want?' 'Jesus of Nazareth,' they replied. 'Well, you got your man.'" That's a loose translation. He says, "I am he." And when Jesus said, "I am he," they drew back and fell on the ground. So if you fast forward to about 4 to 6 o'clock in the morning, that's when there's darkness all over the land, and this is right after Jesus is betrayed by Judas, and Jesus was arrested and falsely accused and condemned. And how do we know that? Glad you asked. John chapter 18, verses 13 and 14, "And brought him, Jesus, to Annas, whose father-in-law is Caiaphas, the high priest that year. Caiaphas was one who had advised the Jewish leaders that it would be good if one man died for the people." Wow. Now we continue the story by looking at Matthew chapter 26, verses 64 and 66. "You have said so," Jesus replied, "but I say to all of you, from now on you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heavens." Then the high priest tore his clothes and said, "He has spoken blasphemy. Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, now you've heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" "He is worthy of death," they answered. So you got a lot happening here early in the morning. We also know that Peter denies Christ potentially during this time. And now the third segment of time, the 6 o'clock in the morning to 8 a.m. Jesus is on trial before Pontius Pilate. The Pontius Pilate. Matthew chapter 27, verses 11 through 14 records this. "Meanwhile, Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor asked him, 'Are you the king of the Jews?' 'You have said so,' Jesus replied. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate answered, 'Don't you hear the testimony they are bringing against you?' But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor." Well, it's here that we know that Barnabas is freed and Jesus is asked to carry his own cross. He got some help from a guy by the name of Simon of Cyrene. John 19:17 documents this. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull. That brings us to about 9 a.m. in the morning. This is great. Mark writes this in Mark chapter 15, 25 and 26. "It was 9 in the morning when they crucified him." Think about that. 9 in the morning. 9 hours later after being falsely accused, well, actually betrayed by Jesus, then falsely accused, flogged, beaten, and now crucified. The written notice of the charge against him read, "The King of the Jews." But with even all of this, Jesus says something really amazing, something unbelievable. Luke chapter 23, verse 34, Jesus said, while hanging on the cross, while looking at all those that tortured him, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they do. Think about that. So powerful. In the middle of agony, Jesus chooses forgiveness. Then you go from 9 o'clock to 9:30 a.m. The soldiers divide his clothes. And again, he prays for them. 9:30 to 11, soldiers watch over the crucifixion as they mock Jesus and they say, he can't save himself. Come down from there, the Son of God. 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock, Jesus speaks from the cross to the thieves and to the one. He looks at him and says, today you will join me in paradise. To Mary and John, he looks at his mother and says, woman, here is your son. And then to John, here is your mother. That brings us to about noon. And from about noon to 3 o'clock, the earthquakes, the trembles, the curtain torn. Jesus thirsts, says, I'm thirsty. But then he would say these words, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. Probably one of the darkest moments in the history of man. Jesus, the Son of God, carries the weight of every one of my sins and yours and the world's. Then he says those words, it is finished. Now notice what he didn't say. He didn't say, I am finished. He said, it is finished. His work has been done. Redemption. Sins have been paid for. The payment is done. So, let me conclude with this. What does this mean for you and I right now? 1, you are loved. 2, forgiveness is not optional. It's yours. 3, your Friday is not the end. You know why? Sunday is coming. I hope if you're able to join us tonight live here at West Valley Christian Church at 7 o'clock as we look at the death of Jesus Christ from the perspective of his beloved disciple John. God bless you.